This is the weekly update dated October 22nd, 21 for the 5-minute production incubation project. Last week we saw handling additional edge cases, including declines of Google OAuth 2 and logging of relevant errors. This week is all about testing. If you look at this feature, it mainly introduces 3 routes, and the test plan should involve testing all possible scenarios for these 3 routes. The first route that has to be tested is the Get Google Cloud page. This is the main page inside project infrastructure that shows the list of service accounts. Here are the test scenarios that were tested. First, if a guest tries to access this page, please show a 404. If a user tries to access this page, the user is not a maintainer, just a regular user. It's again a 404. This page should be made available only for project maintainers. Maintainers should be able to access this page if the feature flag is enabled. If not, we hide the page. If the feature flag is enabled and the GitLab instance has been configured for Google OAuth 2, only then can we show them the page. If the GitLab instance is not configured for Google OAuth, we show them a relevant warning. Then, once the instance is set up, so the feature flag is enabled and it's been configured for Google OAuth 2, we can show them the page with a list of service accounts. If the project does not have any service accounts, we show a relevant message for that, else we show the list. And finally, we show a link to the Generate Service Accounts page that starts the whole process. These were the scenarios that were tested for this route. The next route that was tested is the Google Cloud Generate Service Account Get route. All the checks of the previous page are included. So the checks of the user, maintainer, feature flag status, and Google OAuth 2 conf, all of these have to be tested, of course. But additionally, there are some tests that are relevant for this page. The first one is, does the session have a valid Google OAuth 2 token? If not, we take the user to the Google OAuth 2 page and they perform the login and the authorizations if needed. Once this has been done, we check whether the user authorized GitLab to manage their cloud resources. If not, we show them a relevant warning and we take them back to the process. So this is the case when the user starts the OAuth 2 process but declines. And then we gracefully handle that. Let's assume that the user goes forward and grants permission to GitLab to authorize their cloud resources. The next thing we want to do is we want to check if the Google Cloud Resource Manager API has been enabled for the GCP project that is integrated with the instance. So if you remember in the previous page, we spoke about integrating and enabling for the GitLab instance Google OAuth 2. That is done via a GCP project, and for that GCP project we have to enable the Cloud Resource Manager API. This is something that has to be done by the GitLab admin. If this has not been performed, we show a relevant warning and we log an error for the admin to review. If this permission or this API has been enabled, then we move forward and we check whether the user has GCP projects or not. If the user does not have a GCP project, they are prompted to create a GCP project. If they have one or more GCP projects, then we can show the form with the drop down to select the project and the environment. The final test plan is for the route post Google Cloud Generate Service Account. This is when the user has submitted the form shown in the previous route and they're taken to this place. First of all, we have to include all the checks we did previously. So the checks on the user maintainer status, the feature flag, and the Google OAuth 2 configuration. Once all of this is good, we check specifically for this page, we check if the Google IAM API has been configured or not. This is similar to the Cloud Resource Manager API described in the last section. This is supposed to be done by the admin of the GitLab instance for that particular instance. Once the Google IAM API has been configured, we can proceed. If it has not been, then we show a relevant warning to the user and we log an error for the admin. But assuming the IAM API is configured, we now have the ability to create service accounts for the user, and we do the same. Once that has been done, these service accounts are saved as project CI variables. So the test plan should include all of this. This elaborate test plan has been converted into specs, which you can find in this MR. A way to review the tests would be to navigate to the changes and scroll all the way down to the spec section, and you want to look at Google Cloud Controller spec, which involves all of these scenarios. For example, here you're seeing the Google Cloud GET request route where the user is not present, the user is not authorized, or is a maintainer. Then there are contexts for Google Auth 2 configuration, and so on. So this is a fairly large spec file with most of the scenarios covered over here. Now that the tests are complete, the next part for me for next week would be to componentize the front end using Vue.js and the Pyjamas framework. I've already begun working on that, but that will take me next week, and I will be writing additional front-end tests for that piece of work. I want to now set a date. I want to target 29th of October, that's next Friday, to make this MR come out of draft stage. So the MR should be ready for reviewers and maintainers to start the review process. The review process will take a while. I believe it will be a back and forth. It will be, let's say, 2, maybe 3 weeks of reviews and fixes and things of that nature. That's my estimate, which means if things go really smooth, we are looking at shipping this as part of 14.5 in November. But the most likely outcome is that this might be pushed back to 14.6. We'll see how it goes next week.